Welcome back to Karen Karma, the channel where entitled Karens get their just desserts. Today, we've got a monster of a story, epic about HOA Karen, the suburban dictator who turned a peaceful neighborhood into a battlefield. This tale is packed with twists that'll have you gasping, laughing, raging, and cheering. Grab your popcorn because once you start, you won't stop till the karma hits. If you're new here, smash that subscribe button and let's dive in. Picture this: Willow Creek, a quiet suburb in sunny California, where the sun always seems to shine on perfectly manicured lawns, white picket fences, and streets filled with the laughter of children playing without a care. But beneath this idyllic facade lurks Karen Whitaker, a 52-year-old divorcee whose perm is as unyielding as her ironclad personality. Karen wasn't born the HOA president, she clawed her way to the throne with calculated precision. It all began innocently enough, or so it seemed. Karen moved into Willow Creek 5 years ago, fresh from a bitter divorce from Bob, a soft-spoken accountant who finally fled her relentless criticism and control. She purchased a modest 2-story home on Elm Street, but from the very first day, her judgments poured out like acid rain. "That mailbox is a complete eyesore. It clashes with the neighborhood aesthetic," she declared to unsuspecting neighbors. "And your grass? It's at least half an inch too long. Have some pride." Back then, the Homeowners Association was a sleepy, volunteer-run affair, focused on simple tasks like maintaining the community pool and coordinating holiday light displays. Meetings were casual gatherings over coffee, with decisions made by consensus among a handful of elderly residents who had lived there for decades. But Karen saw untapped potential, a chance to impose order on what she viewed as chaos. She started by volunteering for the board, charming the older members with batches of homemade chocolate chip cookies, each one accompanied by a subtle, passive-aggressive note about community standards. Within just a few months, Karen orchestrated a coup. She rallied a few like-minded busybodies and pushed for a democratic vote that mysteriously ousted the longtime president, Mr. Hargrove, an 80-year-old widower who preferred diplomacy over dictates. Whispers spread that the vote was rigged, ballots lost, and proxies suspiciously in Karen's favor, but no one dared challenge her openly. And just like that, Karen ascended to the presidency, her eyes gleaming with newfound power. As HOA president, Karen transformed the organization into her personal fiefdom. The rulebook, once a slim pamphlet, ballooned into a tome of regulations that micromanaged every aspect of daily life. No trash cans could be visible from the street, even for a moment. Cars had to be parked facing north, regardless of driveway orientation. Holiday decorations? They must come down by 9 a.m. sharp on December 26th or face escalating penalties. Fines started at a modest $50, but could skyrocket to property liens for repeat offenders. Neighbors began to murmur in hushed tones, "She's turning our haven into a prison camp. What's next? Curfews?" Let's meet our first unfortunate victims, the Johnson family, a young couple in their 30s with 2 energetic kids, Sarah and Timmy, and a playful golden retriever named Buddy. The Johnsons were the epitome of suburban bliss. Mark worked as a high school teacher, coaching soccer on weekends, while his wife Lisa ran a small home bakery. One fateful afternoon, Buddy, in his puppy exuberance, escaped the yard and dug up Karen's prized rosebush, the one she bragged about at every meeting as her award-winning hybrid. Karen didn't hesitate. She marched over to the Johnsons' door, clipboard clutched like a weapon, her face twisted in righteous fury. "That's a $200 fine for willful property damage," she barked at Mark, who opened the door mid-dinner. "And your dog's leash? It's non-compliant with Section 4.2. Add another $50 for that infraction." Mark, ever the reasonable man, tried to defuse the situation. "Karen, please, it was just an accident. Buddy's only a year old. He's still learning. We'll replant the bush ourselves if it'll help." But Karen's lips curled into a sneer. "Rules are rules, Mark. They're there to protect the community from people like you who let things slide. Pay up by Friday or I'll escalate this to the board, and trust me, you don't want that. The neighborhood's undercurrent of frustration began to bubble. Emotions ran the gamut: raw anger at Karen's unrelenting pettiness, a creeping fear of her unchecked authority, and a quiet despair as friendships strained under the weight of her decrees. But at this point, no one could foresee the labyrinth of twists that lay ahead, secrets buried deeper than Buddy's ill-fated hole. As Karen's regime solidified, she patrolled the streets in her customized golf cart, equipped with binoculars and a megaphone for enforcement reminders. Every morning, she'd cruise slowly, jotting down violations with gleeful precision. One particularly heartbreaking case involved elderly Mrs. Patel, a widow in her 70s who had immigrated from India decades ago and cherished her cultural traditions. During Diwali, she strung up colorful lights around her porch, a gentle glow that brought joy to the block. Karen struck like lightning. "Those lights are far too bright. They violate the illumination ordinance," she declared, slapping a $150 fine on Mrs. Patel's door. The old woman, her hands trembling as she handed over the check, whispered through tears, "I've lived here for 20 years, raised my children in this home. This festival is about light over darkness, but now it feels like the darkness is winning." Karen's ego inflated with each victory. At monthly HOA meetings, held in the community center under fluorescent lights that cast harsh shadows, she'd launch into lengthy monologues. "I'm saving this community from descending into utter chaos. Without my leadership, it would be anarchy, overgrown weeds, mismatched paint colors, total disarray." But behind closed doors, the whispers grew louder. "Where is all that fine money really going? The pool hasn't been cleaned in months, and the playground equipment is rusting." The Johnsons weren't alone in their suffering. Take young couple the Millers, who painted their front door a cheerful red, fined $100 for non-approved color palette. Or Mr. Gonzalez, a single dad, who let his son draw hopscotch breads on the sidewalk that earned a $75 citation for temporary vandalism. Barbecues were outright banned after one odor complaint, turning summer evenings into silent, isolated affairs. The air thickened with resentment, a potent mix of humorless compliance and simmering rage, as neighbors exchanged knowing glances over fences they now feared decorating. Enter our unlikely hero, Emily Ramirez, a 35-year-old single mom and talented graphic designer who had relocated to Willow Creek just a year ago, seeking a fresh start after her own divorce. Emily's home was cozy but unpretentious, with a yard bursting with wildflowers, vibrant poppies and daisies that attracted butterflies and brought a touch of whimsy to the sterile suburb. But whimsy had no place in Karen's world. Emily's first fine arrived swiftly: $100 for unauthorized flora that disrupts visual uniformity. Unlike others, Emily refused to cower. "This is absolutely ridiculous," she confided to her next-door neighbor, Tom Hargrove. Yes, the same Mr. Hargrove Karen had dethroned, now a retired cop in his 60s with a keen eye for injustice. Tom nodded gravely, stroking his mustache. Karen spiraled out of control. "She's fining these $75 because my truck's hunter green isn't neutral enough. I've policed real criminals. This feels like tyranny in pastels." That conversation sparked the flame. Emily created a secret group chat on an encrypted app, Willow Creek Rebels. At first, it was a safe space for venting, memes mocking Karen's perm, shared photos of absurd violations, and late-night rants. Emotions swirled in the digital ether, bursts of laughter at the absurdity, waves of sadness over fractured community bonds, and a growing undercurrent of determination. One crisp evening, the group escalated to real-world action. They gathered in Tom's backyard under the guise of a tea party. Barbecues were forbidden, after all, with folding chairs arranged in a circle, flashlights dimmed to avoid detection. The group swelled to 10 neighbors: the Johnsons, Mrs. Patel, Mr. Gonzalez, and others weary of the oppression. Mark Johnson shared his latest ordeal, his voice cracking with emotion. "She threatened to put a lien on our house over Buddy's latest escape. My kids are terrified. Sarah asked if we have to move away from their friends."
The air hung heavy with shared pain, but then came the first hint of suspense. An anonymous text pinged into the group chat. Karen's hiding something big. Dig into the HOA finances. You won't believe what you'll find. Who sent it? A disgruntled insider? A hacker? The mystery electrified the group, turning despair into intrigue. Emily, with her designer's eye for detail, took the lead. By law, we're entitled to those records, she declared. She submitted a formal request, but Karen stonewalled, citing ongoing audits and confidential reviews. Undeterred, Emily persisted, her resolve hardened by a potent cocktail of anger at the injustice and a fierce sense of justice for her daughter Lily, who deserved a neighborhood free from fear.
As the rebels bonded, their meetings became a tapestry of emotions. Laughter erupted over failed attempts at satire, like a photoshopped image of Karen as a cartoon villain, but tears flowed freely too, especially from Mrs. Patel, who confessed her isolation. "I feel like a stranger in my own home now." Tom, drawing on his cop experience, added gravity. "I've taken down crooks in my day." Karen's got that same shifty look, entitlement masking something darker. The cracks in Karen's empire began to widen, invisible at first, but spreading like fissures in concrete. Emily and Tom, armed with partial financial records, finally pried from Karen's grip, huddled over spreadsheets in Emily's kitchen late into the night. Odd entries leaped out, a $5,000 payment for landscaping services to a company named Whitaker Gardens. Whitaker? That's Karen's maiden name, Tom muttered, his detective instincts firing. This smells like self-dealing. Suspicion mounted as Karen sensed the shifting tides. She ramped up her tactics, leaving anonymous notes on doors. Comply or face consequences. One morning, Mark Johnson found his car's tire slashed. Coincidence or Karen's doing? Paranoia gripped the rebels, blending their anger with a chilling fear. Emily's 8-year-old daughter, Lily, tugged at her mom's sleeve one evening, her wide eyes filled with innocence. "Mommy, why is that mean lady always yelling? Does she hate flowers?" Emily pulled her into a hug, fighting back tears, and whispered, "Some people are just lost, sweetie, but we're going to make it right." The emotional stakes soared at the next HOA meeting, a tense affair in the community center where folding chairs squeaked under shifting bodies. Karen, perched at the head table like a judge, announced a special assessment fee, $500 per household for a grandiose new fountain in the park. Murmurs turned to outright protests. Mark stood tall, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. "Karen, where exactly is this money going? The fines alone should cover it. We've paid thousands." Karen's face flushed crimson. "That's none of your business. This is for the betterment of Willow Creek." But the room erupted in chaos. Accusations. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share your own nightmare neighbor stories. And if this epic kept you hooked, like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more Karen Karma tales. Until next time, remember, entitlement always comes with a price. See you soon.